to go over some of these areas and talk with you about what you need to know in these. In Unit 8, you need to understand what one-to-one correspondence is. You also need to know what natural activities are, which happen naturally. The kids do them on their own, whether inside or outside. Informal activities are ones that we set up in the learning centers for them. They find them, they interact with those activities. And the structured activities are activities that we set up during, say, group time or circle time activities or small group time activities. Those are the ones that we initiate and the children interact with us in those settings. Know the difference between those three. Also in Unit 8, you need to know the difference, well, you need to understand what rational counting is. And those are the main things in Unit 8. In Unit 9, for the test on Monday, you need to know what number sense is. You also need to know what subsidizing is. Subsidizing is when you see a group of objects, you look at those objects like I showed y'all in class the other night, and you say, okay, there's 5 objects in that group. That's subsidizing. You also need to know what cardinality is. Cardinality is when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is the last number. That's your cardinal number. That's the number that's in the group of items that you counted. Those are very, very important to know, and those will be on the test. You also need to know out of that chapter, it talks about counting and numbers, and that children also need to understand that 0 is a number. A lot of times we don't talk about that, but 0 is actually a number. Now that's not something you're going to be talking about with the children, the 3-year-old kids. We're going to be talking about with the 4- and 5-year-old kids in the classrooms. Also, rote counting, the difference between rote counting and rational counting. Rote counting is what we talked about when I can say, the parent says, my child can say their numbers to 100. Yes, they may be able to say their numbers. That's rote counting. But rational counting is being able to count objects. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Be able to say the number, point to the object, and name the object and move from object. That's rational counting. That will also be on the quiz. In Unit 10, the main things I want you to be aware of in here is logical grouping and classifying. You'll be able to understand what classifying is and adding and subtracting. Now, not so much writing down adding and subtracting, but if I have 2 groups of objects and I remove these 2 over here, how many do I have left? Kids, preschoolers can do that. The ones that have learned how to count can tell you, okay, I have 2 and they have 2. That is learning how to add to groups and take away from groups. Be able to understand that. Also in this chapter, there's all different types of classifying or features of classifying, or components or attributes of classifying. And in the chapter, it talks about color, shape, size, material, pattern, texture, the function. Function is what can the object do. If you're classifying cars or transportation vehicles, some can roll, some can fly, and some go in water. So that would be function of those vehicles. Association, what can they do together? What objects go together by association? Candle and candle holder, straw and cup. That's by association. Also class name and common features of those. And of course, how many are in the group, the number of those items. Those are all different ways that you can classify objects. And there's many, many, many more, but those are some of the ways that our preschoolers classify objects in our classrooms. And in this chapter, it gives you lots and lots of different 9 and 10.